All right, so if you just watch the, how to optimize and lower your cost per call, or more importantly, bring in higher quality leads, now we're going to talk about how to make sure that you're getting the best cost per call as possible. And we're going to start very similar to the way that we started last time, which is verify tracking, making sure you're measuring calls and live calls correctly. You want to separate out lead and book call. Someone who submits an application, for example, you should not be pixeling that as your scheduled call. You should be pixeling when people have gone through and scheduled their call. This is really, really important because typically people might say, well, I have a low cost per call, but a really, really high cost per live call, meaning the number of people who actually show up. And that's because you're not looking at the right things. Yes, you should be looking at cost per call and putting that pixel on the confirmation page once they've actually scheduled. So they filled out your application. Hopefully you have some sort of application before they've gone through the call booking process. So they filled out the application, they have scheduled their call, and then the confirmation page, where you have your thank you videos and the pre-frame videos for your sales calls. I'll talk more about those in a second if you don't have those. That's where your schedule pixel should be, your book call pixel should be. That's what you want to optimize for in your ad account when you're running middle of funnel retargeting campaigns, or like I mentioned in the previous lesson, if you have enough book calls that are booking every week, you could actually run campaigns with a lead objective, or lead generation campaigns, but with a booked call or schedule objective. That's going to be really, really powerful. It's going to bring you the highest quality leads as possible and eventually lead to a good book call. But making sure you have tracking in the right place is important. So some other things that we can look at is we can identify, okay, where is it breaking? Is it, maybe we have a really high cost per click or a low click-through rate. We'll talk about that. Landing page conversion, apply rate, the show rate, and the cost per live call. Those are all things that we're going to address and look at as we're sort of optimizing your high cost per call or high cost per live call, or whatever issue is you're having with getting people on calls. So the very first thing, not the most important, but it does have a ripple effect, okay, is that high cost per click and low CTR. So we're not getting attention. So go back to our lead kind of concept. We need to fix creative and messaging. So typically what I would do is I've got my lead campaign, and then I've got, which is top of funnel, and then I've got a middle of funnel campaign where I'm running ads strictly for getting people to schedule a call. So I'd probably send into some kind of like middle of funnel nurture kind of training video. I call it a VSL, but it's not really a VSL. It's more of like a 5 to 10 minute video where they get to know, you a little bit, you're providing a little bit of value. And then there's a call to action to schedule a consultation, but it's kind of seamless. At least it should be. Like the information would be like you're sending out to your email list to give them content, and then it should seamlessly transition to a call. That's where, I'm paying attention to CPC and low click-through rate, because that means the message in that ad is not resonating with people. And it should be going to warm traffic. So I should have a very, very high click-through rate, very low cost per click, because it should be going just to warm traffic, right? So let's say we fix that. And now we want to address our low landing page conversion. This is a little bit different. So people don't book, okay? People click and they watch. People click and watch it, but don't book. So we need to fix the page and the offer that's being made. So the page being the video that's on it, the content that's on it. This should be treated like a VSL, but the content of it is really, really important. Okay. And that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the offer. So I'm going to give you a very specific example. I have a client, she's in the menopause space, and we have a lot of ads that focus in on what she calls this meno belly. It's like the visceral fat that women get as they start to get older. It's really hard to get rid of. And just cutting calories alone doesn't always do it. So that's a great top of funnel ad. It gets a lot of attention, but not everyone books right away. The market's very skeptical. They tend to be a lot more sophisticated. They're not a impressionable buyer. They're going to take their time to make a decision. The top of funnel gets their attention, does really, really well. We have really high click-through rates, really low CPMs. So it's getting attention, getting the clicks. It's getting people to opt in, but they're not necessarily going to book right away. So what we do is a middle of funnel campaign where we do retargeting, and we run to videos that are very specific about visceral fat and what's leading to it. We also have other lead magnets where we're talking about inflammation. And then we have middle of funnel retargeting videos that are talking about inflammation. So it's very specific, right? So think of them like targeted trainings and videos that lead back to the right message to nurture, but also to get the call. This is one of the reasons why I highly recommend going through my Lead Magnet OS course, because I teach you how to build a quiz in there that's a custom quiz that allows you to have custom outcomes, and you can actually create retargeting audiences based on exactly where their outcome is. So your follow-up nurture campaign, not only in email and text message, but also in your ads, can be really, really dialed in and really specific. And that's what fixing the page and the offer is all about, right? So we're talking about, congruency, stronger lead magnet, making the next step like the no-brainer. And this is really the key. That video, that content needs to seamlessly just lead people to the next step. So my client in the menopause space is an example. She might be talking about where visceral fat comes from and how, the causes of it, and using an example of like what she does to help her clients. And then she says, one of the first steps that we do is a complete screening. And then what we do is kind of a personalized plan and evaluation to help you map that out. And if you'd like to do that, down below this link, you're going to see a button that you can click on to schedule your personalized roadmap call, she calls it. All right. It should be seamless like that, where you're giving value and you're giving good information. It doesn't have to be real long. It could be a few minutes, 5-7 minute video, but you're giving value, you're connecting to their pain points, and then you're driving them. That's the congruency and the stronger lead magnet. But the making the next step obvious is the most important thing. It needs to go together extremely well. What you don't want to do is have a retargeting video to a video that's 45 minutes long, where you're just teaching people for 45 minutes. And in the last minute, you're like, and hey, if you want more information, book a call. That's not going to lead to anything. So that kind of transition to the low apply rate. Okay. So you should getting people, the landing page should be converting, and the apply rate, getting people going through the application. This is that better conversion mechanism that I've been talking about. Getting people, giving them a clear reason to book now, right? Now, the trust before the calendar is really important. So more proof, right? We're fixing the page. This low conversion on the landing page and the low apply rate, they really are the same thing. I just wanted to break them out into separate sort of categories, because there are things that you need to be looking at, right? If people aren't converting to an application, there's a problem, right? That's the page itself. If they're going through the application, but they're not converting to a book call, you might not be creating a lot of trust. Enough trust, right? Now, one of the things that I point out here, if you have an empty calendar, don't put an application in front. I know I said before you should have an application to weed people out. That's under the assumption that you have limited time. You only want to talk to the exact right person. If you're just getting started and you have an empty calendar, you should have no friction at all. You should just let whomever book a call. All right. Just let them get on your calendar. Just treat the bad lead as practice, right? If people don't show up, use an opportunity to follow up with people and, build your CRM out so it follows up with people automatically, but then also try messaging people, send them a text message manually. If you're just starting out and you don't have a lot of business, you shouldn't be just sitting around waiting. You should be filling up your time going after people. Okay. So talk to whoever you want, get as many reps under your belt as you possibly can. It's one of the best things you can do to fix booking problems like people aren't applying. Just remove the friction. Okay. Low show rates. Calls booked, but don't show up. This is a show up system problem. Okay. You immediately should hit a confirmation page. Once someone books a call, they should hit a follow-up page, confirmation page that obviously has, hey, a thank you video. Thanks for scheduling your call. Now, I just want to, kind of cover what we're going to go through, and what you should be doing on that call is confirming with them why it's important that they get there, because they're going to get value out of it. Don't have this arrogance like, I'm too good for you and you should be thanking me for being on this call. You don't need to do the bro dude thing, right? Just let them know that, yes, hey, look, my time is valuable, but I also want to make sure that you get the most out of this call, because this isn't just a sales call. We're going to talk about working together, but whether we work together or not, you're going to come away from this call with XYZ. And I want you to be prepared for that. So it's really important that you come to the call with, and then you let them know what you want them to come to the call with. Okay. 70-80% of the people that I audit, and these are people making 30, 40, 50K a month, don't have a really good call booking nurture system. And you might be thinking, well, shit, man, they're making 40, 50 grand a month. It's because they have a really good offer and they're really good at sales, and they just massively just message people. They really don't, but they have a really high, probably no show rate. And that's just low hanging fruit. It's just easy money. What they usually usually do is they rely on like Calendly's booking engine to book people, to remind them. Don't. You should have voicemail auto drop. You should have email reminders. You should be using SMS to remind people to book calls. The voicemail is completely unused. Go high level. So my system that I've created, Elite 360, we have, voicemail drops that you can do. I teach people how to do custom image SMS reminders where it can like automatically put their name on an image. Dude, that's hot. And it works so well to get people's attention and just, it's kind of fun, right? It just makes it more fun. But the confirmation page is really, really, really powerful. It's kind of like a second VSL. Maybe you've retargeted to a VSL. Maybe they haven't seen a VSL at all. Should have a lot of proof on that page and remind them why they booked in the first place. Okay. And all of your follow-up should be driving people back to this. Okay. Of course, immediate follow-up should happen, but you also should have like a reschedule, cancellation, and a no-show automation. One of the things that I give all of my clients with our Elite 360 software is a pre-built call booking sequence. And it covers obviously reminders, but then there's also a no-show, reschedule, cancellation flows that come with that. And then finally, I would not recommend letting people book more than 48 hours out. What I find is that any more than that, and typically what ends up happening is they just don't show up. The percentages where people drop off are huge once you get to that. Okay. So those are kind of the 2 or 3 areas. I kind of broke them out because I wanted you to see that there's different components of each one of these that you want to focus on. And you hone in on these things and you should have a better quality person. Numbers should be there. Your show rate should be higher. But then what we need to do is we need to check the call quality and close rate. Okay. So if I've gone through these and I've optimized these all with a client, if I'm still having a tough time, if the sales team is still having a tough time getting closes, I'm going to tighten that qualification. I'm going to improve the pre-call framing. These are things that are happening in the ads, the marketing side, as well as like the thank you page. All of that stuff should be knocking down objections, but it's not marketing's job to make a call or to close a call. All right. You want to knock down as many objections as you can, but I've been in this game so long, and no matter who I'm consulting for, how big they are, how small they are, there always seems to be a little bit of friction between the sales team and the marketing team. And usually the sales team, it's a guy who's been in sales or gal who's been in sales for a while. They're pretty good at what they do, maybe have a little bit of experience with marketing. They're trying to tell the marketing team what to do. And the marketing team is saying one thing and the sales team is saying quality is really bad because people aren't closing. I'm just going to be real with you. Both are right and both are wrong. Okay. What I mean by that is the two need to work together. All right. The sales team have such valuable information. One of the first things that I do is ask for sales call recordings of all the people that close, like 10 that have closed. Hopefully you're doing yours on Zoom. So you have like Loom recordings so you can evaluate your sales calls. That's a tip. By the way, if you're not doing that, you should be doing that. Or even just evaluating recorded sales calls if you're doing them over the phone. But one of the first things I'll do is I'll evaluate 10 sales calls that closed, preferably pay in fulls because they're your best closes. And then I'll do 10 sales calls that didn't close or with quality leads. And what I'm going to try to identify is what are some of those objections or things that are holding people back. I'll ask the sales team those questions as well. And I'm going to try to create marketing, nurture, and follow up and all of the videos, all the stuff we're retargeting to try to knock those things down. I want to try to give the sales team the best possible chance at closing that person as I can. But at the end of the day, the salesperson also needs to be solid. The assumption is that you, the founder, are doing the calls, or you have a sales team that are doing the calls, but they're closing. And what's solid? They should be over 30% cold traffic, right? Over 50% warm traffic. Warm traffic meaning organic, like people who follow you on social, that type of thing. But if you're running cold ads, 30% of people that show up for calls, not 30% of people that book, but 30% of live calls. Now, one of the things that I always never understood is why they don't count the live call unless they drop the price or they pitch. Why the heck is that person on the phone if you're not going to pitch them? The person's on the phone, that counts as a live call. Whether you pitch them or not, that's your bad. So every single person, that's one of the benchmarks that you need to set for yourself. Every single person who gets on the phone should be pitched. Now, you don't necessarily have to pitch them your full-blown program. And this is where I offer some training and coaching inside Elite Marketer Academy around building self-liquidating offers. Things that you can downsell to, lower ticket, taking pieces, splintering out, I call them splinter offer out some of the things that are in your high ticket program and create a downsell. You should be pitching every single person that's on a sales call. The fact that you're not is a massive red flag. And that means you need to address something higher up in the conversion process. Okay. So if calls are happening and are closing, great. Now it's time to do the same thing we did with leads, improve conversion efficiency and scale winners. So we're just, again, you might have 3 of these things dialed in, one's lacking, continuing to focus in on making it better, better, and better, and better, and better, and as tight as it possibly can get. And that will just have a ripple effect down the line. So to summarize, expensive clicks, fix creative, cheap clicks, but expensive leads, fix the page or offer, leads, but low apply rate, give a reason to book. That congruency is so important. That transition needs to flow. You're able to book calls, but high no-show rate. Optimize that booking process and remind people of why they booked in the first place. So there you go, guys. That's how to optimize, strategize around a high cost per call. I'll see you in the next lesson.